and welcome to my channel. I am Ezrael the Scribe. First off, this channel is all about my sharing of experiences, practices, and the occult, spirituality, healing, wellness, many different avenues of self, as well as philosophy, history, and psychology, but not from the academic standpoint, but from my experiences over the past 25 years working in the occult field, or path working as it's called. So that is the foundations of this channel. And if you're here, you obviously resonated with the title or subject matter, and so welcome. Welcome to my home. This is where the magic happens. And without further ado, today's topic that I wanted to go over is occult. The name, the word occult, and as well as pagan. So these are two words that in many streams of our avenues in life have created fires. Literally, people burn to death because of these words, and it stems from different belief systems, different religions, and different ideas that they think that they're so bad that people should be put to death, which is outrageous in modern thinking. That and that still happens in other countries. And where if you there's been stories of, and this is nothing against any one religion, but if in certain countries, if you were to leave that religion, you could be put to death. So that's how, and I'm not even going to list it, because all it will do will create a small fire. And many that understand that and know that will know what I'm talking about. So I'll leave it at that. So with that said, so occult, and I always say I'm going from my, practice, but the occult, that the word that means is hidden. That's what it means. Things that are hidden. So, so when time comes to spirituality, hidden spirituality, what is that? What is hidden spirituality? And I love Carl Jung's take on psychology and mental health, and his ideas of the unconscious, the collective unconscious, society's collective conscious, the different constructs, the different archetypes that are behind the scenes that created by society, that flow off those currents. It's very fascinating. And it's one avenue of psychology that I dove into when I was in school, and I love the working. So that's where my practice and integrated with that ideology, that hidden, the occult, is the unconscious spirituality, the unconscious potential that's within us to expand our perceptions, expand our energetic fields, to some people would say to love more, to heal more, to feel more, to these fears and anxieties that come up in life often are stemmed from some kind of traumatic experience that we cast away the memories of it, we cast away the energy of it, we cast away our spirit that's tied to that energy, in order to not feel the pain of it. So when we come into those experiences and get triggered, that trigger is the unconscious energy, that hole that's there going, hey, I feel it, but it's not there. So this is uncomfortable. So that's when, we decide to leave a place or go to Walmart on Black Friday. It's the energy. My gosh. So things like that. So that's the hidden, spirituality. That missing pieces that. And once you reclaim those, you no longer have the anxiety, you no longer have the fears. You are more whole to yourself, and you come making choices from an authentic place because you're not afraid. You're not, deterring yourself because of something that happened years ago. You're able to move forward. So that's why a lot of people, tap into the occult field to find those hidden gems. And in witchcraft and Wicca, they talk about the Book of Shadows, and you're thinking, ooh, it's some magical spell book with very cool illustrations and all these powerful incantations. While all that is true, it's based around like if you look at Gerald Gardner's Book of Shadows, there was some kind of documentary that I saw that the gentleman that had the documentary, he was able to view his Book of Shadows, and when he opened it, it wasn't all like some kind of biblical written, illustrated, very finely tuned book. It was pretty much a book of these images in different places, and these weird sigils and lines and little scrambling of words and little different like journaling. And so when you think of the Book of Shadows, you're thinking of the person's shadows, their unconscious spirit, they're what they're reclaiming, what the wisdom that they gained from those practices, they're putting into that book. And with those practices in the occult, you tap into divine aspects that rule over those aspects that are hidden. So you might come across deities like Shiva, or Shakti, or Hecate, or Bridget, or you might come across Aryan Road, or and then might come across Lucifer or Lilith, or these darker deities that rule over the darker aspects of life. They rule over a lot of these, experiences that cause shame and guilt and everything like that. Your sins, so to speak, that you feel terrible about, that you cast away because you don't want to feel guilt. You don't want to feel accountable. So where does that energy that you cast away go? Well, it goes to places that are ruled over by these deities. And so coming to terms with the reason for the guilt, the reason for the shame, and changing who you are by accepting, you gain those pieces back. And it takes courage to go into those places to reclaim that in the occult, which is the hidden. So going back to these different concepts that represent hidden, many belief systems have been brought up under the label of the occult because it's based on people's traditions and experiences, but you don't have to be a part of these traditions to experience the occult. And often some of the most wise individuals that don't consider themselves powerful are deep into the occult, but in their own process, in their own way. They've taken the middle road, which I always consider as, you got the left-hand path, the right-hand path, and then the middle path is your own. And that's why it's hidden, because you're not going along someone else's path, and you're not going along society's paths. You're going on your own, which is the middle. But it's incorporating both. You're honoring the divine and you're honoring the self. So it's a concept. And I don't persuade you to it. This is my process, my journey, my gnosis. But it has guided me to learn a lot from both aspects because of that in the occult. What else? Other things that are hidden are hidden things about yourself that block you, like weaknesses, fear. Like I talked about fears. What are limitations? Sometimes the reason why we can't find success is because we're blocking ourselves. We're afraid to succeed. We're afraid of money. What would happen if we had a ton of money? And that comes down to personal trust and personal value and worth. Are you worth, what you put out? And are you putting out what you should be to equal what you were worth? And that's either, are you doing the work? Are you getting up and going out and looking for work to make money, or are you doing your passion to make money? I have a friend who's an amazing artist, and I'm seeking to help her get off, on her work. And so, and each person I meet that is following their passions, I try to support in some way, add value. Because when you add value to other people, you're adding value to yourself, because you see that beauty, that creativity that's out there, and you realize you have that potential too. So it expands your thoughts. And so that is what I'm going to cover on the occult, the word. If you disagree with me, please feel free to respond what your thoughts are. And then if you agree with me, please respond as well. I appreciate the feedback of joy, and then being slapped back down to reality so I can stay humble. So I accept any thoughts or processes that you feel about my concept on the occult, or if you have anything to add to it, I'd love to hear. Now, my second word I wanted to cover is paganism. Pagan. Oh, that person's a pagan. They got a pinnacle. They've got a this, that. They got the runes. So you hear that term, but the original term, and this was taught to me, and did research too, and it is from my experience in the pagan scene, is from the hills. And you're like, wait, what? That term that people judge people with, it means from the hills. And it does. So pagans, I should have done, well, no, I wasn't going to do research, but I know it's from the Celtic areas, but I'm sure it's further widespread. But, so pagan, so back in the day, when the Christian church was expanding, or the Islamic faith was expanding across the countries, many of the major cities had the churches, the citadels, the mosques, and the places like that. And so Because of that, it was more widespread in the city. And then the people out in the country, which would be considered in the hills, they, didn't hear of all these, different rites and rituals of the Christian faith or the Muslim faith, because they were still out in the country and their villages and whatnot. So they continued to practice their own ancient traditions, which was passed down through families of working with gods, working with deities, ancestral worship if you're in Japan, all of these different aspects of nature worship. In my video on, the right hand path in history, I cover quite a bit of that. But in this case, they were labeled pagan because they were different. That was the word to classify them. And back then, it wasn't out of judgment. It was more so, excuse me, to distinguish between, Christianity, Islam, other faiths compared to ancient faiths. So that is where the pagan terminology came from, that term. And over the years, it's become oh man, something in the air. But over the years, it has been classified as a term to represent anything that's not Judaic, Christian, Islam, Hindu faith. Well, I guess anything Judaic, Christian, and Islam. Outside of that, everything's pagan. And and that's due to, over the years, through different rulers enforcing horrible enactments on people of different beliefs and different faiths. It's one thing to disagree with a faith, but it's a different thing to slaughter hundreds, thousands of people because of a different belief system. And if that belief system doesn't affect you personally and doesn't harm you in any way, some of the ancient practices of ritual sacrifice of people, which did happen in, South America and other areas of the world, that's unacceptable in modern times as well as ethical times, because you don't need to do something like that to make some kind of spirit happy or energy happy. It's a relationship you build. But that's the gnosis that, it's taken how many thousands of years for people to realize that and to become humane in those aspects. And I don't mean to hate on ancestral rights, but that's not my path. And this is my channel, but at the same time, I do respect all paths. I do those that don't harm, And so that comes down to, and many out of fear, hysteria, and many uneducated reasons. There was hundreds of years that people were burned at the stake for having a different belief, and that's horrifying. Or put on a cross upside down because they were Christian. That's horrifying. Everyone was affected by fear, hysteria, trauma, and judgment. They enacted all these horrible rites because they were different. And people just didn't understand and didn't take the time to learn why people think that way and then them saying that they're right and you're wrong, and blah 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 blah, like they have some kind of authority over your spirit that Creator gave you. It's like, come on, and so things like that. But that's, pagan. That's the term I wanted to bring up. This will be a shorter video. I just wanted to cover those two terms because it's important for people getting into different spirituality beliefs to kind of understand the context of those words. And it's very misconstrued through Hollywood of what it means and what it can be. And I always say there's a big line between reality and fantasy. And majority of the time, what you see in Hollywood is fantasy. And, who doesn't want to, create a portal and go to a different world, teleport, But I will say the creativity behind this fantasy has changed reality. Now, if you don't remember, and I can say this because it's been over so many years, but Star Trek, if you think about it, cell phones, that was like, what was the 60s, 70s? They had that, Sulu, beam me up, or beam me up, Scotty. That was the term. But to be able to teleport as well as to talk to somebody from one side of the, outer space or another side of the country to another, or wherever they were, that created cell phones. Those ideas, the science fiction, it enabled people to dive deeper into what we can create. And so there is some, art, magic, and creativity in fantasy. But when it comes to your own personal life and how different perceptions of spirituality, magic, and the occult, a lot of things that people would consider fantasy is reality. And then a lot of things that people would consider reality is fantasy. And so finding that hidden in the occult, those gems, and I consider it wisdom is what you find. And wisdom and knowledge and truth of your spirit. And bringing that forth so you can be a greater, aspect of yourself for your family, your loved ones, to truly know from your soul what you want in this life, because it seems like we just get one chance, but then you do have different path workings of karma as well as cycles of reincarnation. But then you got a huge belief system built around you go to another plane of existence. And so with that in mind, you might as well take some time to do some work to, one, enjoy the creation, two, learn what works for you, learn what works for your spirit, and three, share its passions, live life, find, enjoy each moment, and people are like, why do you wear black? And I'm like, because I'm mourning my last breath, and it's like, you got to honor and respect that. And so things like that, but I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, you want to hear more of what I'm sharing, hit like and subscribe, hit that bell. That'll let you know when more things are coming. I do have a couple programs down below. I have a Patreon with some more information that I've been uploading gradually. More will come that I put on there, like tools of the occult, I do have some workings with the left-hand path that I have in there as well. And then I do have a program called the Crimson Riddle, and that link will be in below as well. And it's a self-guided course on self-discovery. I have guided meditations in there, as well as, which is video recorded, or not video recorded, but audio recorded. And then I have many different methods of awakening energies that you already have, understanding how they work and putting them to use, and building your inner temple, which in my gnosis, that your body is the temple and your spirit that resides within it. You know, if you don't take care of your temple, how are you going to take care of everything else? So you got to incorporate that. So that's going to be in there as well. But until our next showing, I wish you a wonderful night.